Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. So, Vipulji, why don't you read the seven realities,
I will. The
please?
seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following seven realities. Number one, the only real existence is that of one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. Point number two, the only real love is the love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, and even life itself, are sacrificed. Point number four. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. Point number five. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so-called bad, in saint and in so-called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly love or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. Point number six. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in lower desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of the character. Point number seven. The only real surrender is that in which voice is undisturbed by any adverse circumstances, and individual amidst every kind of hardship is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. So, I'll just start with. So, there's any others facing problems with connectivity today? Mama, your audio is fixed? No, it isn't. Oh, you're on mute.
Just now I just connected. There was a lot of problem. Anyway, Karthi, Prajwal solved it a bit, and then I'm on now.
Okay. Okay, so Karma is having trouble. So let me just show you what happened. I mean, where to find.
I mean.
Oh, you're in. Okay. So just for everybody's benefit, in case you get stuck, do you know how to get the link? If you miss the link, just get to Telegram. Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So go to the pinned messages. There it is. There it is. So just click on the pinned message, which is right on the top, and it opens up the meeting. So this is for those of you who have not saved the link or whatever. Just go there and click, and you're all set.
Karthik, add me to the Telegram group. I'm not there, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, are you not
there?
Later.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Yeah. That's a pity. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Add me later.
Yeah.
Add me later.
I don't know how we missed that.
Oh, sure.
So, in
Bye.
fact, on talking about Telegram, I hope everybody enjoyed that message I sent yesterday about conviction, right? The cow.
Yes, yes, we
Yes,
saw that.
we did that, Karthik. We did that.
Yeah, very nice. Yes,
It's
yes.
a very good analogy. Very good analogy.
Very good analogy. So powerful. I was really moved by it. Yes. So we continue reading. Yesterday we finished the two chapters. One on the problem of sex, and the second, the sanctification of married life. Kama, anything from your side? You were not there yesterday, so anything from your side to add to the discussion yesterday? I have not put up the video, so and any others on any discussion or questions that linger, and then we get into now.
Jay Baba, I think the only suggestion I had was, or I think we had done it earlier. It was thanks to Sanjay Nigam that when we were reading Reincarnation and Karma, and I think it's part five or part five, I believe, which talks
Correct.
about the significance
Female,
of male and female
male and female.
incarnations.
Yeah.
So I would look at that as a very, very macro aspect of the gender aspect, you know. And whereas the two chapters that you read yesterday on the marriage and sex, I think that is a very practical approach. In fact, I think I've told this before, the story that I was asked to conduct a wedding of a friend of mine, my colleague in New York. He was a Russian Orthodox guy, and his wife was from Sweden, and he rejected the cardinal of Los Angeles, the Russian Orthodox Church, who marries all the famous celebrities. And so people were curious why I was asked by my friend to do it, you know. But what I did was he wanted me to talk about you know about before giving the marriage vows. He wanted me to talk about love and marriage, you know, especially about love. So actually I took excerpts from these two chapters, and believe it or not, about 50 to 60% of the total number of people who were invited, there were probably about 100, you know, about 50 couples. After the, you know, official formal wedding vows and all that, when we were having, you know, drinks and snacks, they came and told me that they had never heard a speech like that. And I told them that, you know, and it was thanks to Meher Baba, you know. And so, I just thought that Karthik, I was telling Karthik that if everyone today, before they get married and they have children, if they read these two chapters, it might make a big impact on their lives. But I think the main thing is about the chapter on reincarnation of the male and female incarnations. For those of you who are not familiar, you know, as we all know, the Atma self has no gender, but the consciousness of the soul, the drop soul, has to take both male and female incarnations when you have evolved into the human form, because evolution is over, so it's only reincarnation. So in the process of reincarnation, as Baba has said in another chapter, the soul has to be born in the east and in the west, in different cycles of time, as a male or a female. And I think he has also added that in some incarnations, some births, you will have the superiority complex or inferiority complex or a equality complex. So imagine so many variables based on those 84 lakh human lives that Baba talks about. But I think the beauty of that chapter, how it's relevant to this two chapters, is that um, what Baba says is that uh, you know this is a very important thing to actually understand, is that the male and female tendencies are both available for both the male and female genders. But when the soul is born in the male form, only the male psychological tendencies come into the conscious mind. The female tendencies are sublimated in the subconscious, and vice versa for the female. And the reason for the attraction between a male and female is that the soul, to feel completion, needs to have both male and female tendencies, together, and hence the attraction between the sexes. So that was a very interesting point that was very significant in that particular chapter that I thought we should share. Jai Baba, thanks.
Others, any thoughts and comments? No? Good. So we proceed. So let's go further to the chapter on love. If you recollect, on the anniversary of our group, which is, I think, 3 months back or 2 months back, we read this chapter. Sunil read this chapter already, but we'll anyway go through it again as part of the sequence. So, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Love. It is on page 110 on the physical book. Love pervades universe. Life and love are inseparable from each other. Where there is life, there is love. Even the most rudimentary consciousness is always trying to burst out of its limitations and experience some kind of unity with other forms. Though each form is separate from other forms, in reality, they are all forms of the same unity of life. The latent sense of this hidden inner reality indirectly makes itself felt even in the world of illusion through the attraction that one form has for another form. Love in inanimate nature. The law of gravitation, which all the planets and the stars are subject to, is in its own way a dim reflection of the love that pervades every part of the universe. Even the forces of repulsion are in truth expressions of love, since things are repelled from each other because they are more powerfully attracted to some other things. Repulsion is a negative consequence of positive attraction. The forces of cohesion and affinity which prevail in the very constitution of matter are positive expressions of love. A striking example of love at this level is found in the attraction the magnet exercises for iron. All these forms of love are of the lowest type, since they are necessarily conditioned by the rudimentary consciousness in which they appear. Love in the animal world. In the animal world, love becomes more explicit in the form of conscious impulses that are directed towards different objects in the surroundings. This love is instinctive, and it takes the form of gratifying different desires through the appropriation of suitable objects. When a tiger seeks to devour a deer, it is in a very real sense in love with the deer. Sexual attraction is another form of love at this level. All the expressions of love at this stage have one thing in common, namely, they all seek to satisfy some bodily impulse or desire through the object of love. Human love has to adjust to reason. Human love is much higher than all these lower forms of love because human beings have fully developed consciousness. Though human love is continuous with the lower subhuman forms of love, in one way it is different from them. For henceforth, its operations have to be carried on side by side with a new factor, which is reason. Sometimes human love manifests itself as a force that is divorced from reason and runs parallel to it. Sometimes it manifests itself as a force that gets mixed up with reason and comes into conflict with it. Finally, it expresses itself as a constituent of the harmonized whole where love and reason have been balanced and fused into an integral unity.
Karthik,
Yeah.
love in animal world, can anyone explain I am unable to make out what is the actual purport there.
So I think this line summarizes that all the expressions of love at this stage have one thing in common. They all seek to satisfy some bodily impulse or desire through the object of love. So if you take the lion, it's the hunger. If you take the sexual attraction, it's again bodily impulse. And the animal love stops at that level, is what I understood. That's based on the consciousness level of the animal. Others may have a better explanation.
Karthik, if I may add,
Yeah.
so it relates to the body's need for lust for food, lust for
No, I don't think it is lust at this stage. So even the very I mean lust also is there, correct? I don't disagree. But if you look at what we are talking about here, it's only animal love, right?
So that's why I had read out that part. So how do you distinguish between animal love with any other traits? And one thing which comes out and which is there in one of the paragraphs is that there is that all are one, whether it is any even in the rudimentary consciousness, whether it is stone or a gaseous form, or till the evolution of the whole process of evolution till the form we have the human form, all are essentially one and connected with the unity of God. So that is an interesting inference. All are one.
Absolutely. That's what I loved in this reading, right? So this line is very, very powerful. Though each form is separate from other forms, in reality they are all forms of the same unity of life, and that's the reason for love, right? Anyway, to answer Mama's question, anybody else?
Okay, with the highlight of that sentence. So what is the animal love? It is craving for food or desire or anything like that. So how do you contextualize
I
that?
think Mamaji, I think what comes to my mind is that we should think not animal as animal. Even humans have animal love actually, and animals have human love. You know, some of the species of animals. But as a general classification, I think Baba has written like this: is the nature of love, which is called animal, not the animal per se. Right? Can we think like
It's a
that?
good way of understanding it, but
Yeah.
if you look at it
No.
verbatim,
Because
he's talking about love in the animal world. So when you are in the
animal world.
kingdom,
Yeah.
when you are in the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
the expression. So he starts from all forms, the lowest forms of consciousness. So
Yes.
magnet also. I mean, iron and magnet also has consciousness, but it is so low. So they either repel or they attract, and that also is driven by this innate nature of unity, which is sought by the physical attraction to the other, right? And then he brings about the other thing, which is repulsion is also an extension of love. Then he says, okay, as the consciousness improves to animal world, the first expressions of love are driven by bodily impulse. So your bodily, even the expression of interest to go and eat something is an expression of love, is what he says. That's what I'm taking away from this.
Yes. Yes, Karthik.
See, even in the animals also, not only their basic needs like hunger and lust, they try to express their love, but some of these animals have natural love, like dogs. Whoever owns a dog, you can see that, you can experience that. They have very pure love. They don't care for anything else. They just love the master. Even if the master don't give any food for 3 days, still they come running with wagging tail and all that stuff. They have some natural love, but still it is not as perfected as human beings, since the consciousness is still in the process of development. So their love is a little bit lower than human love. Maybe that's how we can understand this.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, I think that,
What Ravi
to
told now.
extrapolate, excuse me, Hello.
I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Baba. What I want to say is that what I think ABC Ashok Bansali said, to extrapolate on what he said, there are different aspects here we have to look at. Now, when you're looking at love, you have to understand from the Big Bang, where did it come from? So actually, it started with consciousness. God wanted to know himself, right? Who am I? So it's split into two. So on one side, you already had God in state 1B, where he realized himself, that is, he is divine love, which is called infinite consciousness or eternal avataric infinite consciousness. Then you had the opposite, the simultaneous and spontaneous burst of duality, infinite unconsciousness, which is where all of us as drop souls are evolving from that basic subatomic particle. Now, when we look at all the law of divine grace, where we have those three laws, laws of matter, supernatural laws, and the law of karma. So in the laws of matter, we know about the four laws: strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, gravitational attraction, and electromagnetic force. So right in the first paragraph, Baba says that these forces are also a form of love, but their consciousness is very low. It's very rudimentary. So love is latent in any aspect of consciousness, whether it's animate or inanimate. Then coming back to the human form, we have gone from evolution, now we are into reincarnation. So human beings are technically having full and complete consciousness, and they have divine love inside them, but it's not manifested or awakened because of sanskaras. So when we go back to the chapter on last chapter on discourses called God as infinite love, Baba talks about lust, longing, and surrender, which relates to the gross body, subtle body, and mental body. So when man, human form, evolves from animals, from the gorillas, the animal lust is there. Yes, there is a form of a typical form of human love within animals that we see, as Ravi pointed out. Dogs, cats, when we have domestic animals. But the interesting thing is that that love is of a different degree. Just like consciousness has different degrees, love also has different degrees. So in the human form, when we became cavemen, we basically had animal lust. Of course, there was a family living in the cave and all that. But then that love started to improve. So Baba has said in that particular chapter that lust is the lowest form of human love, human lust. Now, the lust can relate to the five sensations: touch, taste, sound, smell, sight. Lust for food, gluttony, lust for money, greed, and so on and so forth. So the point here is that then we come to love. My understanding after reading this whole chapter is that you start off with lust, which is of the gross body. And then once you are awakened by a perfect master, you start from the first plane, where I believe it's called pure love, which is the gift of the perfect master, which we will read. So now here, pure love is the transition between lust of the typical human being and then ends into divine love. So uh, a sixth plane, basically you almost have divine love, except there is a subject and object differentiation. So the only difference between the seventh plane and the sixth plane is that in the sixth plane you have the experience of divine love, but there is this duality between subject and object. And then once you are in the seventh plane, that is the ultimate, which is divine love. And that divine love is latent in everything. Jai Baba.
So, Kama, just a
Babaji?
question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ashok.
So in the seventh plane, there is no duality. Is that the correct understanding? Because in the seventh plane, the divine love, there's no subject object. You only see God, and there is no duality. Is that a correct interpretation?
Yes, you have to remember there is first stage of fana, which is nirvana, only bliss, and second stage of fana, which is nirvikalpa samadhi, fana phila, which is uh, God realization, divine love. Okay, so this is still a subject of controversy. Is nirvana also divine love, or only nirvikalpa samadhi divine love? Because Satchitananda stage is only in the fana phila, second stage of fana. Whereas nirvana is annihilation of the mind, where you experience the divine absolute vacuum state, which is the Paratpar Parabrahma state in the conscious state. So that is something I am not very clear about, whether divine love manifests in nirvana itself or only when you have God realization, that is the fanafila, second stage of fana.
I think I read somewhere, maybe in the God Speaks, the divine love onsets as soon as the sanskaras are dropped. Nirvana state.
Okay. So if sanskaras become zero and you have divine love, then
Automatically,
yes,
yes.
Okay.
Uh,
But I add that perhaps we should just keep in mind that the human love is different, as is mentioned in the discourses, from any other forms of love, because we have the additional aspect of reasoning.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, see, pure love itself goes through different degrees because you have those 7 planes, 1 to 7. So there itself in the first, second, third, fourth plane, there is love. And of course, we know that as you go through the involution planes, the sanskaras become finer and finer. Gross become subtle, subtle become mental. And remember that even in the fourth plane, it's dangerous territory, right? Because of that, you can become deluded and use your power and go back to the stone state. So even the 6 planes that we talk about are also part of the real illusion that Baba talks about, because the only thing that is real is the 7th plane, that is nirvana, manonash. So whatever you are experiencing through all the different planes itself are different degrees of pure love. When pure love becomes what do you call 100, let's say, that you might call it as divine love. Jai Baba.
So, Kama, I think you bring in a very important point that we can slide back also from the fourth plane if we misuse our, uh, abilities at that point in time. I think it's mentioned in many places, I think, or 1 or 2 places, that even from that's a very important threshold. Jay Bab,
Correct.
sorry.
Yeah. Even if you are reached the fourth plane, doesn't mean that you have crossed the other side of the fence. According to God speaks, if you're on the 5th or 6th plane, then there is no retrogression, that is going back. So the best thing to do is to go veiled, as Baba says. You don't have to go through the planes and experience all those things. You just surrender to Baba, love Baba, how to love God, follow those principles, and go veiled. So that is the best form of, approaching God realization, to complete surrenderance. The other things are all, just, different ways, as we read in practical mysticism, each individual soul will have to go through different processes. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Thank you.
we had a nice discussion, but the point that I thought of bringing here is, say, the idea of love is more of giving. So that is pure love or divine love. So in contrast to that, the sexual attraction or the, say, gluttony part of it is also called love. So that is what I wanted to stress here in this paragraph. So the evolution of that love starts with this. So basic attraction, either for want or even for lust. So from that it evolves and then becomes pure love and then the divine love. Jai Baba.
Absolutely, that's a good point you made. But basically, it's this this line summarizes everything, right? So though each form is separate from other forms, in reality, they are all forms of the same unity of life. So, in whatever way possible, based on the limitations of the form and the limitations of the consciousness of that form at that stage, they are expressing the desire to reach that unity. And that expression starts as love. It could be attraction, gravitational force, magnetism. It could be the desire to devour and eat something. It could be sexual attraction in animals. And then it progresses like that. Cool.
Yes.
So, shall we continue?
Yes.
Okay. Human love has to adjust to reason. We did that. So, let's go to 3 combinations of love and reason. Thus, human love can enter into 3 types of combination with reason. In the first type, the sphere of thought and the sphere of love are kept as separate as possible. That is, the sphere of love is practically inaccessible to the operation of reason, and love is allowed little or no access to the sphere of thought. Complete separation between these two aspects of the spirit is, of course, never possible. But when there is an alternate functioning of love and reason oscillating in their predominance, we have love that is unillumined by reason, or reason unenlivened by love. So is thought and reason the same? I believe so. Right? Because here he says complete
Yes,
separation.
I think analytical reasoning mind, thought.
So that's thought. Okay. All right. Fine. Thank you. So then first type is clear. In the second type, love and reason are both simultaneously operative, but they do not work in harmony with each other. Though this conflict creates confusion, it is a necessary phase in the evolution of the higher state where there is a real synthesis of love and reason. In the third type of love, the synthesis between love and reason is an accomplished fact, with the result that both love and reason are so completely transformed that they precipitate the emergence of a new level of consciousness that, compared to the normal human consciousness, is best described as super consciousness. Okay, I'll pause here. Any questions on these, any discussion on these three types of love?
Jay Baba, I think this this has been one of my toughest assignment when reading discourses. Though on surface it looks very simple to read and probably feel that, yeah, I understand it. It's a it's actually takes us to the progression of how we deal with love. And I think the best example would be our own personal life examples as we are growing through the 7 stages of life, child, teenager, and so on and so forth. And what we see is, when we are a child, there is pure love. And then when the sanskaras start to take over and the hormones start to take over, then the lust starts to manifest, because of the, hormones and all that stuff. And then if you can look at your own life in terms of dating and going through the teenage years, what happens before you get married, like in the West, we have serial dating. And then you meet all kinds of people to find the right partner. And then you realize, by the process of elimination, neti, not this, and wanting to be a practical person in life, you want to meet the partner who will meet your expectations, which is 50-50, which is where the Baba's thing, that again, that last chapter, God as infinite love, is very relevant to this particular 3 aspects. Initially, it's all about 100% me. What can I get out of it? Satisfying my physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual desires from the other person. And then you slowly realize, oh no, you know what, I got to be much more giving, 50-50. So you always look for, you look at all the marriage columns, Brahmin community, same community with these kind of attributes, fair, white, blah, blah, blah. So typically what is happening today is in India, what I see, there are still so-called quasi-arranged marriages where the son is telling the dad, like, parents, whatever you guys decide, I will go for it. Okay. So that is a typical thing that happens in few family homes. And so you definitely go through the web and do all your due diligence, and then they meet and all that. And basically the criteria is, does she have the qualifications? Does she going to make the same kind of money? Does she going to meet whatever? And that's how this whole thing is, love business. But then after we go through life and go through the whole Maslow's hierarchy, we make our money, we have the whole typical, nice suburban house with the children and everybody well settled. And Baba comes into our life, and then you start thinking about lust and, what's happening with my life and what am I doing? Then the real journey starts. So that is how I look at this whole 3 aspects, the way it's described, because the last one, it talks about super consciousness, which is basically nirvana, because that is the only purpose in life, to have divine love, So, but we have to go through all of this. We went through animal lust, but we were unconscious of what is lust and love. But now, as a human being, when you were a caveman, you were dependent on your animal sanskaras. You procreated, created good and bad sanskaras, and suddenly Baba is on a life. Now you are trying to unwind. Jai Baba.
I'm still not sure if you are able to throw some light on it. I'm sorry. Can anybody think of examples for each of this? Right, the thought and reason and love being parallel, and then specific examples could probably help us understand this. Kama, you too, anybody?
We have a surprise guest here. Vidyaji, namaste. Vidyagaru, namaskaram. Please come and help us.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaste, Jai
Namaskaram,
Baba.
everyone. Jai Baba.
So
Jai
pleased
Baba.
to have you see here, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
How are you all doing? Hope everyone is safe, and I don't want to divert the discussions, but still, I just could log in. So, how are you all?
We're all doing.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah, all are okay.
Baba's grace.
Fortunately, with Baba's blessings, we are all okay. Your message is very sublime, Vidyagaru. I did not know you sent it to everybody, but it was very profound.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Baba, for the message. I guess, no, I didn't send to everyone. I think only a couple of you have the message. Anyway, thank you. Please carry on the discussion. Baba's work is going on. I don't want to disturb with my presence. Please carry on.
Thank you, Vidya.
But Vidya, we want you to give us your, I gave the male perspective of lust, love, and so on with, with the male and female gender. Why don't you just give us your insight on this particular last three, this aspect that Karthik just discussed?
You know what? I just logged in. I couldn't. I have not heard the full discussion, and I've not heard the reading also fully as of now. So I don't think it is right for me to talk without hearing what you all said. If I'll start some due discussion, then I'll also change the flow. So let me let it be for the time being. Maybe other people can talk when I feel like talking. I'll jump in and definitely talk. Yeah.
Sure. As a reference, if you're going to read in the background, it's basically on the screen, and we are talking about the three types of love that Baba is describing.
Okay.
And it's the combinations of love and reason. So there's one where both are operating independently. One is they are simultaneously operative, and then the third is actually a synthesis of the two. Of the two to lead to super consciousness. What personally I am struggling with is the examples for each of this.
I have one suggestion, Karthik.
Yeah.
Can you read the whole thing again? If you can read that again, it will be wonderful.
Sure, of course, that's a good idea. Yeah. So let me start again. Three combinations of love and reason. Thus, human love can enter into three types of combination with reason. In the first type, the sphere of thought and sphere of love are kept as separate as possible. That is, the sphere of love is practically inaccessible to the operation of reason, and love is allowed little or no access to the sphere of thought. Complete separation between these two aspects of the spirit is, of course, never possible. But when there is an alternate functioning of love and reason oscillating in their predominance, we have love that is illumined by reason, or reason unenlivened by love. In the second type, love and reason are both simultaneously operative, but they do not work in harmony with each other. Though this conflict creates confusion, it is a necessary phase in the evolution of the higher state where there is a real synthesis of love and reason. In the third type of love, this synthesis between love and reason is an accomplished fact, with the result that both love and reason are so completely transformed that they precipitate the emergence of a new level of consciousness that compared to the normal human consciousness, is best described as super consciousness. So these are the three
Okay.
types. What I'm struggling with is some sort of examples. I don't know how love and reason can be separate in the human consciousness. Very rarely do we have unconditional. I mean, is that unconditional love then? And then what is reason operating parallelly? So I am not able to get it. Second is
while Vidyavati Garu is intellectual exercising before she comes in, let me give my 2 cents.
sure.
There is an evolution process here. Initially, we have love, but we are mostly involved with our mental, dealing everything with the mind, intellect, and all those things. As we become Baba lovers, now we are trying to learn how to love, how to involve love in everyday life. That is what we are struggling to involve love and our intellectual concepts together. We are on the way. And once we become perfect on that, then we use love and intellect simultaneously whenever which part is needed. That is at higher state of our evolution of loving Baba or in the spiritual life. Those are the thoughts I'm getting. And I keep remembering Don Stevens. Baba said Don Stevens has got perfect balance of love and intellect. That's what I remember now. Yeah, Jai Baba.
Karthik, I just want to add to everyone that perhaps, while we analyze this and in terms of the expression of love, body, mind, and heart, that could be another dimension of trying to correlate love and reason.
What's that again? Body,
sort of
body, mind, and heart. Is it?
Heart, dil. So that could be another aspect.
Further complicated. I think. Yeah, but I mean, mind and heart. Okay, that's related to the.
To sort of illustrate this, we can use Venn diagram, because when they say that, that, that in the second stage where both love and reason are not, they are separate, but still they are correlated. So a Venn diagram, some sort of a pictorial representation along with the literature might help us in better understanding, is my suggestion.
Not bad idea, Ashok.
Good talk.
Yeah, in the first part, there are 2 circles. One is mind and one is intellect. We use separately, not interacting. In the middle part, there is some overlap with each other. In the third part, they are overlapping completely.
Yeah. So in super consciousness, there is a much more greater commonality, or much more the level of consciousness is higher, as well as the potency or the power, the force, because the divine love supersedes, is above all, like the supreme court or the supreme order of love. I'm just trying to put some sort of a hierarchy. That might be the correct way, that might not be correct. Sharing my thought.
Good job.
Good. I think I like the visualization.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Khalid bhai.
Yeah. We all accept ourselves as Baba lovers. We confess we love Baba, We get together every weekend. And that's a confession that we love Baba. But I feel like, if each individual, gives his viewpoint on why he or she loves Baba, maybe we'll find some answer to your query, Karthik. Jai Baba.
Further dimension.
Okay, so maybe I'm gathering something from all that I'm hearing. So share what's my point and understanding from of love and reasoning. Uh, so in the evolutionary process of love, obviously the mind plays its role for see mind is the driving factor initially. It is taking lead rather than heart, because for example, when we love someone, we start reasoning why we love someone, accepting our children and parents. I think rest of the people, we start, even our spouse, we start reasoning in even I think what do I like about him or her, and why she's good or why he is bad. These kind of things, the reasons are there in our life. Only in the case of our children, probably we love blindly. We don't think whether they're good or bad, and whatever kind of children we get, we love them. And similarly, parents, because in these two cases, I think we don't make our personal choices. That comes given to human beings. The second thing is for even otherwise, at some point of time, we start reasoning why we don't love someone. The for a don't, why I don't love, because I don't like the way he or she behaves or does things, or the damage that is caused by to the self or by to others in the process. So these all becomes reasons for not loving. So I think this is the lowest form of in this three categories, this is the lowest form that Baba is talking about, that we start reasoning why and this. The second kind of love that we are talking about is like it is this oscillating between love and reason starts diminishing, and one starts looking at the higher aspects of love and understands that one has to simply love rather than finding reasons for loving and not loving. I think it also denotes somewhere about to Baba said that loving someone you love is not great. Loving someone you don't love is really great. And that is what means loving me. So I think he's made few statements somewhere and given some examples of what loving without reason means. Um, it necessarily do not refer to unconditional love, because I think in Dawn of Reality, I wrote a full chapter on love, the reality of love. And when we talk about unconditional love, it comes much later, because the invoking of real love, which runs from heart. It doesn't come from the mind, but it just comes from the heart, without any reason, without anything, without any cause. It is just there, probably, and that is a very different kind of love. It is not that kind of love that we all feel, oh, we should jump with joy, or we are floating on the water, or we're swimming, or we are floating in the air. Nothing like that. The real kind of love just stays, just holds, just is there, and it doesn't reduce or increase with the events happening outside of us. So that's the kind of unconditional love that I've experienced. So I think that is somewhere near to unconditional love, but we're not talking about unconditional love. We're still coming back to reasons. The third thing he talks about is the superconscious love, where reason and love merges with each other. And the importance is not given to love or reason, but you get to know your truth. So the focus really shift from the love to being conscious, super conscious, wherein love and reason and everything else is also merging with it. It is just love, not love and reason, but everything below that is just merging, and there is only one consciousness, super consciousness, the truth, where you don't discriminate good and bad, love and hate, or reasoning or not reasoning. These things do not exist in that truth. The truth simply prevails where it is. So this is about moving from real worldly love to a super conscious love, because this is Baba. This is spiritual. This is spirituality. He's not trying to explain the science of love. He is telling how things merge in the super consciousness, and how love that is, which is the lower grade of love, which is reasoned, goes to a state of merging with the whole, and there is oneness in the whole thing, you know. So transforming one relationship from reason to oneness is just one relationship. You could do it with human efforts by working on that relationship. It might be possible that you will move and say, I simply love this person irrespective of what this person does. It could be an example of the love that is experienced at the super consciousness level, you know. So if you want to experiment, maybe you experiment with one relationship, but that will be still one relationship. It is not love that is experienced at super consciousness, which is no reason, um, no nothing. It is simply there, as the sunlight is there, as moon is there, and as air is there. Love is simply there, and that is what Don Stevens love and balance being same, because it doesn't change, because you're not shifting, you are simply there with it. Jai Baba.
Jai
Others?
Baba,
Thank you.
Vidya
Jai
Garu,
Baba.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I would like to say, before I ever came into Baba's fold, I had no idea what is divine love. Only thing I know is attached love. That is, I have my own selfish reasons for loving anything. I love sweets, I love my parents, I love my sisters and brothers. There's always some string selfishness attached to that. Only after Baba picked me, or pick anybody, that is where I started learning what is love. Is it possible at all for anyone to start loving a pure love uh, before any divine intervention is there?
So Ravi Garu, I have to say something here. So I think when we compare our experiences with the rest of the people, it may never be same. It will never be same. In fact, it will never be same, because each soul is coming with a different journey and with different goal and path, and their evolution process and the growth path we cannot assess from human limited mind. We do not know the other person. So your experience of not experienced divine love may not be true for many people, because one who has got a master and one who has experienced a master in the physical form will be experiencing something close to divine love, because the master's love is the most selfless love, and one who has encountered a real master in life would have experienced it in the gross body. This does not mean I'm not referring to avatars love only, but there are several perfect masters who actually take you to that experience of divine love. So even during Baba's time, the perfect masters who were there in Baba Jan's presence, many people experienced the divine love. And so and sometimes devotion also leads to divine love, you know. And there could be people who are loving someone else as divine love. So there could be many souls at different state doing different things, and 9 people in this meeting calling out and saying something about divine love may not be the full population, and it doesn't give the real picture maybe. So I would say, don't compare your experiences with others. Stay with your experience, and that would really help you grow faster.
Sure. It's interesting. Sanjay ji, you were saying something.
The Vidyaji was referring to Baba's message on love. What I remembered was Baba said, "Start loving me by loving those whom you cannot love." That's I just wanted to quote. Yeah, Baba.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Great. So, any other points of view or discussion on these three types? We'll continue to reflect on it and bring out ideas, but can we proceed? I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll continue. Qualitative variety in love. Human love makes its appearance in the matrix of ego consciousness, which has countless desires. Love is colored by these factors in many ways. Just as we get an ever-changing variety of designs in a kaleidoscope by the various combination of simpler elements, we find an almost limitless qualitative variety in the range of love, owing to novel combinations of factors. And just as there are infinite shades of color in different flowers, there are diverse, delicate differences in human love. Lower forms of love. Human love is encircled by a number of obstructive factors such as infatuation, lust, greed, anger, and jealousy. In one sense, even these obstructive factors are either forms of lower love or the inevitable side results of these lower forms of love. Infatuation, lust, and greed might be looked upon as perverted and lower forms of love. In infatuation, a person is enamored of a sensual object. In lust, he develops a craving for it, craving for sensations in relation to it, and in greed, he desires to possess it. Of these three forms of lower love, greed has a tendency to extend from the original object to the means of obtaining it. Thus, a person becomes greedy for money or power or fame, which can be instruments for possessing the different objects that are craved. Anger and jealousy come into existence when these lower forms of love are thwarted or threatened to be thwarted. Lower forms of love, enemy of the higher. These lower forms of love obstruct the release of pure love. The stream of love can never become clear and steady until it is disentangled from these limiting and perverting forms of lower love. The lower forms are the enemy of the higher. If consciousness is caught in the rhythm of the lower, it cannot emancipate itself from the self-created ruts, finding it difficult to get out of them and advance further. Thus, the lower forms of love continue to interfere with the development of the higher form and have to be given up in order to allow for the untrammeled appearance of the higher form of love. Love and infatuation. The emergence of higher love from the shell of lower love is helped by the constant exercise of discrimination. Therefore, love has to be carefully distinguished from the obstructive factors of infatuation, lust, greed, and anger. In infatuation, the person is a passive victim of the spell of conceived attraction for the object. In love, there is an active appreciation of the intrinsic worth of the object of love. Love and lust.
Karthik,
Yeah.
I think it's time to spend some time about discrimination here.
Sure.
So we have to carefully understand when we exercise our own weaknesses. Most of the time, when we are expressing it, we take it for granted. Oh, we are used to it, or it's okay to do this, anger or greed or lust or anything. But I think we have to start observing whenever we use the love in the lower forms, we have to start observing it so that we can have the ability to discriminate from the pure love. That is the point I would like to bring, and let's see what others say.
I think yes, that is actually even in the management functions. This is discussed that you observe yourself, separating yourself from yourself. So that's what I
Yeah.
think you
E-
indicated. So yeah.
EQ,
So
right?
as
EQ.
humans, not only as love, in general, we must do that actually. How we are, what we are,
Yeah, in the
because we
corporate.
remain, we remain so self-obsessed that we think just about yourself, your own perspectives. So you
Yeah.
distance yourself as a separate identity and observe yourself in all respects, including love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baba. Yeah.
I was when I was traveling, I had to lay over, and I just bought a book, and it's about EQ. And I was surprised to know the statistics. The people with a high IQ are successful by only 16.5%. The people with a high EQ, emotional quotient, are 97% successful in their corporate businesses. So, what is EQ, right? The people who have
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
control over their weaknesses and exhibit
Yeah.
managerial equality,
Empathy. Empathy.
empathy,
Empathy.
equality,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. That's empathy is a form of love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding this term discrimination, constant exercise of discrimination. So the reasoning or the knowledge part of it tries to take a foothold in expressing love also. So the gradually the reasoning leads us to love properly, love better, love in a say a pure nature. So there is a blending of reasoning with the actual love. So that is the three
Yeah.
distinctions there shown earlier comes to my mind.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
one, it
That's
is almost an
that's
animal love, expression of the animal love in human form, where there is no reasoning at all. It is the drive or the say the momentum
Instinct.
from the
yes.
body
Yes.
first.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So whereas the
So that's
second
what we
level,
say.
we start reasoning out and then try to modify our desires in such a way that uh, the forces are lessened and then we become more loving. And the
Yes.
third
Yes.
aspect,
Yes.
I feel it is uh, the perfect master's love. Even
Mhm.
though he may scold you, it is one way of loving you because he feels by reasoning that that is the best thing for you. So that is one way of looking at it also. So
Right.
the
Right. Right.
super
Even yeah.
consciousness of the perfect master knows what is best for the other soul. So that reasoning is also joined with the say love. So we
Mhm.
don't understand it, but it is the best love possible, I think. So
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
the way I
So
look at it.
yeah. Yeah. Jai Baba. In the management classes also they show the input to output or the feed to your behavior. You need to process it properly and see what is the right output and then give that response. So it's just that we are calling it reasoning here. So that's what even in management it is being taught. So and that also is a pause to kill our instinctive behavior actually, so,
Yeah.
and give the right behavior. Yeah. Jai Baba.
See, in
Jay Baba,
Dharma,
the discussion that just that Ravi and others were talking about, I think what came to my mind was when he was talking about IQ and EQ. If you relate that with God speaks, the fifth plane and the sixth plane of involution, they come under the mental body, the mental sphere. So the mental sphere of existence is the fifth and sixth plane, where the mind has two domains. The fifth plane is the domain of thoughts, and the sixth plane is the domain of emotions, what I call, emotions, desires, feelings, EDF.
mm,
Then when you look at Baba's statement in another chapter in Discourses, he talks about the shift of consciousness, that what we are observing today is man has gone from the age of animal instinct, which is probably a caveman, to the age of analytical reasoning mind, which is probably the last 500 years with the laws of matter and quantum mechanics and classical mechanics. Now he said this is the age of intuition. So we also understand that Baba has clearly said that there has to be balance of mind and heart in our practical lives, in our material lives, because we have to take care of the body. That is where, as Doc Mama said, Vivek and Vairagya, discrimination and dispassion are important aspects of living as a human being in the normal world. So, but ultimately, we know that the final goal is divine love, where there is no duality, there is no heart and mind, as Vidya was talking about, there's only oneness. But the beauty about Discourses and God Speaks, it's very clear that the mind is a scaffolding which has evolved through evolution, because the rock doesn't have a mind, right? So the mind is like a scaffolding which has evolved. And Baba has said that, we have to use the mind correctly with Vivek and Vairagya, and then you drop it off, because knowledge and ignorance are two aspects of duality, which is not available during the sleep state. So I think heart intuition. So when we are talking about reason and love, I look at it as the analytical reasoning mind, which is about the analytical reasoning mind, and the love is about the breathing heart love, which is non-dual. Because when you're talking about analytical reasoning mind, there is duality. That is good thoughts and bad thoughts. So that is what I gained from this particular chapter. Jai Baba.
It's interesting, Kama, that you mentioned Vivek. It reminds me of the scriptural book Tattva Veda, written by Adi Sankaracharya. There is a sixfold qualifications that any spiritual aspirant should have, and one of them is Viveka. The Viveka is Karthik. Can you go back to the discrimination page, please?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. See, this higher love, we have to constantly exercise the Viveka, so that we can distinguish between our lower forms of love and the higher form. In the Tattva Bodha, the Viveka means to be able to distinguish what is permanent and what is not permanent. That is where we have to develop this habit of Viveka. Same thing it is mentioned in the Tattva Bodha. Jai Baba.
Okay. So we'll move on.
So one small
Sure.
clarification I seek is from Kama, and the steps of Viveka and Vairagya that we all spoke just now, and in with respect to love and discrimination, I think discrimination is just one word. I'm not giving so much of importance. The discrimination is required in processing the knowledge that we acquire from doing this knowledge sessions, or when we are reading, we are understanding, we are processing Baba's words. That exercise of Vivek is required, which could be in the Hindi word or the Sanskrit word can be Vivek. That how you process this entire knowledge that comes to you. But what I'm trying to understand is, are we trying to put the process in place to say these are the steps to get there? You know, are we saying that we will have mind, we will have heart, and we're going to use Vivek, we are using Vairagya, we are understanding this entire knowledge, and then we are approaching the love. So in this way, when you do all these processes and get to love, then there's a lot of logical thinking going on behind this entire love? Are we, I'm just not trying to say that, yeah, right or wrong, but are we saying this is the process? I mean, are we saying these are the steps to get to the real love?
Interesting, very interesting. You
Yes,
brought
if
in
I
a
understood
interesting.
your question, that yes, I think it is a process. I guess it is like, how would you say it? I think when we go through this chapter on love, Baba talks about pure love, which is the gift of the perfect master, right? So I think to reach that stage of pure love, initially, I believe that we have to go through this unique process. Each one will have to go through this unique process based on what I call as spiritual knowledge. You know, Baba talks about in everything and nothing, there is the material knowledge, which takes care of the material body. Then you have the spiritual knowledge, which is probably based on God speaks and discourses, or the Bible, or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Quran, or whatever. But ultimately, the goal is pure love. So the process, yes, of course, has to be important, you know, how we do it. And with the guidance of a perfect master, it's easier. And when there is no guidance of a perfect master, what do? You have to use your logical, rational mind. And I call the opium theory, other people's mistakes and other people's money. You know, you try to learn from them or unlearn the ignorance. Jai Baba.
Can I say something? It looks like Vidya Garu and Kama, they are both coming from both different ends. Let me meet in between, okay?
I don't think that's required, Mr. Ravi. What?
Yeah, let me say, Vidya Garu, love has to go. Loving Baba has to go all the time. There's no question about it. Here, we meet every weekend and try to learn. Here, we are using completely intellectual power here, intellectual energy. That's only to help Baba more. That's all I'm going to say. So it's these intellectual learning has to be there so that we love Baba more. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Good
So
point.
not good point, not wrong. I think I also understand what Kama is saying. In a way, it is right to say if the process is there, if there are steps, then it is easy to understand and follow. So we all look for a process. So what is also important is when we are looking at following a certain process and trying to get to a logical conclusion of the learning is limited because to understand something else, you have to start again the same process. Unfortunately, in the case of love, and especially the divine love that we are all trying to understand, this entire process is of no use. When we take, for example, we talk about in love, one has to move very dangerously, I would say. It is not logically one moves, doesn't move along with the process. In love, you have to move very, very dangerously. And if you can't love dangerously, then you play the safe game. Then it is like watching the game sitting in the stands. When you sit and pass judgments from the knowledge of books, from the knowledge of all that you have known, and it is like asking Sachin Tendulkar that you should have hit this shot in such a way, you should have played in this way, this catch would have been better, things like that. But the person who's in the stadium knows the kind of pain one goes through when he plays the game, right? So the game of love is like that. So if you want to really be loving, you have to play the game of love, move dangerously, take those shots, have those catches, and then then you know the pain of love, and that's when the holistic growth happens. That is faster to move. So the process and the mind and heart balance and all this, the mind and heart balance does not happen through thinking. You cannot sit and meditate upon having balancing heart and mind. It's not going to happen. Only when you move in love dangerously, you laugh and you fall 10 times, you get up 10 times, and you also in Baba's love, we do all that. And then we reach a state when the oneness happens, only then the balance of heart and mind happens. The heart and mind balance is not going to happen before we get to the ultimate truth. How much ever one tries, whatever level of process, whichever stream of thinking, whichever master, I don't think even Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, anything you take, or Quran or Bible, anything you take, it is nowhere said that you achieve the heart and mind balance before you get your truth. Right? So this is just confirmation that if you say the day I achieve heart and mind balance, I'm in true love. No, once you are in true love, you have heart and mind balance. That's all I'm trying to clarify.
Yes, that is the talk of spontaneous love.
Yes, that is the talk of spontaneous love, and at this age, you should start loving dangerously. Madaktu mama.
Something dangerous. Okay, thank you.
Take the plunge. Love dangerously,
So
love
dangerously,
recklessly.
this word to take home.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Very
Yeah.
pointed. Thank you.
Hey, Baba.
I remembered a long time ago when I was in school, I went to the Tirupati streets, I was waiting for something. The next door guy, he called this young boy and tells him, bring bananas for God. The bananas should be so good, even God should run away. you know, I was laughing like anything.
So was he being sarcastic? I don't think I
Oh, he
got the
was
joke.
serious. He was seriously telling this boy to get good bananas,
But why should God run away from
He
good
really loves
bananas?
dangerously that he wants to make God run away. Great.
Interesting. So with that, we'll continue. The subtitle is Love and Lust. Love is also different from lust. In lust, there is a reliance upon a sensual object and consequent spiritual subordination of oneself to it, whereas love puts one into direct and coordinate relation with the reality behind the form. Therefore, lust is experienced as being heavy, and love is experienced as being light. In lust, there is a narrowing down of life, and in love, there is an expansion of being. To have loved someone is like adding another life to your own. Your life is, as it were, multiplied, and you virtually live in two centers. If you love the whole world, you vicariously live in the whole world. But in lust, there is an ebbing down of life and a general sense of hopeless dependence upon a form regarded as another. Thus, in lust, there is the accentuation of separateness and suffering, while in love, there is the feeling of unity and joy. Lust is dissipation, love is restoration. Lust is a craving of the senses, love is the expression of the spirit. Lust seeks fulfillment, but love experiences fulfillment. In lust, there is excitement, and in love, there is tranquility. I think there was quite a bit of overlap with what we read yesterday from Listen Humanity, the paras that Ashok ji read for us yesterday. So that's nice.
I was just
Exactly.
thinking about that.
Humanity physical book. Same. It's almost same.
Yeah, exactly the same word. So I think it's borrowed from here. Yeah.
The dependence, they use reliance instead of physical, they use sensual. I was just going through it. It's open in front of me.
Yes.
Didn't Baba say opposite to love is the lust?
It is different. So if you go up, if you go up again, Karthik, if you could go up, please. It says love is also different from lust. Yeah. And as we have discussed, lust is one of the lower forms of love. there are degrees or intensity, you can say, not degrees, intensity of love. And I think the highest form or the highest sort of a hierarchy is the divine love. If you'll permit
Jay
me, I want
Baba, I
to read
think
a
what
paragraph.
Ashok, what you're talking about is from God as infinite love. I'll just read this quickly because it will kind of clarify what you're just saying. It says that those who try to understand God through the intellect alone arrive at some cold and dry concept that misses the very essence of the nature of God. It is true that God is infinite knowledge, infinite existence, infinite power, and infinite bliss. But God is not understood in his essence until he is also understood as infinite love. In the beyond state from which the entire universe springs and into which it ultimately merges, God is eternally infinite love. It is only when God's love is viewed in the limited context of forms which arise in the interim period between the appearance of the illusory universe of duality and its merging that its infinity seems to have been imparted. When God's love experiences itself in and through the manifested forms of the universe, it goes through the following phases: experiencing itself as extremely limited. Number two, experiencing itself as becoming less and less limited and becoming more and more like infinite love. And three, experiencing itself to be what it really is: infinite in essence and existence. The experience of limitation in love arises due to the ignorance caused by sanskaras, which are the byproducts of the evolution of consciousness. And the process of love becoming infinite is characterized by the shedding of these limiting sanskaras. As love, latent in the universe, goes through the early, almost unconscious stages of the various kingdoms, it gradually makes its appearance as lust in the animal kingdom. Its appearance in human consciousness is initially also in the form of lust. Lust is the most limited form of love in human consciousness. Let me repeat that. Lust is the most limited form of love in human consciousness. In spite of the clear reference lust has to other persons, it is indistinguishable from undiluted selfishness because all the objects lust clings to are desired for the sake of and from the viewpoint of the limited and separate self. At the same time, it is a form of love because it has in it some kind of appreciation for others, though this appreciation is completely vitiated by thick ignorance about the true self. When human consciousness is completely caught up in the duality of the gross sphere of existence, love cannot express itself as anything other than lust of some type. I'll stop here because this is all in the last chapter, God is infinite love. Jai Baba.
Can you please update that reference? You didn't give me the page number. Can you update it on Trello? Very, very relevant. And I updated
Page
yesterday on this.
399.
Please put it on
I
Trello,
think,
please. Or let me do it right now.
yeah. This is the last chapter. I'll do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Cool. Thank you.
I just have one observation, and perhaps you all can throw light. So, if you permit me, I'll read from Listen Humanity, page 188. Can I start?
Sure.
So it says, this last paragraph on page 188, hard book, Listen Humanity. Divine love is qualitatively different from human love. Human love is for the many in the one, and divine love is for the one in the many. Human love leads to innumerable complications. Well, yeah, that's the place, you got it. But uh, human love leads to innumerable complications, but divine love leads to freedom. In divine love, the personal and impersonal aspects are equally balanced, but in human love, the two aspects are in alternating ascendancy. Human love in its personal and impersonal aspects is limited, but divine love, with its fusion of the personal and impersonal aspects, is infinite in being and expression. I think it's very, very profound.
Super.
Ashok,
Thank you.
by the way, this is actually already described in page 115 in the chapter that we are reading. This is the
It's
second
coming up.
page. 15.
Yeah.
So some of them were repeated in Listen Humanity. Jai Baba.
Okay. Chalo, okay. Thanks for.
Yeah. So let's get back. Love and greed now. Love is equally different from greed. Greed is possessiveness in all its gross and subtle forms. It seeks to appropriate persons and gross objects, as well as such abstract and intangible things as fame and power. In love, the annexation of another person to one's individual life is out of the question, and there is a free and creative outpouring that enlivens and replenishes the being of the beloved, independently of any expectations for the self. We have the paradox that greed, which seeks the appropriation of another object, in fact leads to the opposite result of bringing self under the tutelage of the object. Whereas love, which aims at giving away the self to the object, in fact leads to a spiritual incorporation of the beloved in the very being of the lover. In greed, the self tries to possess the object, but is itself possessed by the object. In love, the self offers itself to the beloved without any reservations, but in that very act, it finds that it has included the beloved in its own being. Infatuation, lust, and greed constitute a spiritual malady, which is often rendered more virulent by the aggravating symptoms of anger and jealousy. Pure love, in sharp contradistinction, is the bloom of spiritual perfection. Human love is so tethered by these limiting conditions that the spontaneous appearance of pure love from within becomes impossible. The subtitle is Pure Love Awakened Through Grace. So, when such pure love arises in the aspirant, it is always a gift. Pure love arises in the heart of the aspirant in response to the descent of grace from a perfect master. When pure love is first received as a gift of the master, it becomes lodged in the consciousness of the aspirant like a seed in favorable soil. And in the course of time, the seed develops into a plant and then into a fully grown tree.
Jai Baba.
Spiritual,
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that when you read the last paragraph, it says infatuation, lust, and greed constitute a spiritual malady. Now, if you look at the previous page on 112, it says in the second paragraph, human love is encircled by a number of obstructive factors such as infatuation, lust, greed, anger, and jealousy. See, here he has given 5 variables, whereas here he speaks about infatuation, lust, and greed constitute a spiritual malady. Now, in another part, Baba has said that, when you were talking about love and lust and love and greed, Baba said, man suffers from the lust of the gross body, greed of the subtle body, and anger of the mental body. Convert lust into love, greed into generosity, and anger into compassion and tolerance. So, what we are seeing out here is that lust, greed, and anger relate to the gross, subtle, and mental body, respectively. But also, as he says, human love is encircled by a number of obstructive factors such as infatuation, then comes lust of the gross body, greed of the subtle body, anger of the mental body, and then jealousy. And he has described, how infatuation and jealousy, work around the other 3 forms of lower love. But, I also look at what we see, the 7 deadly sins. So I have added my own variable, fear and worry. Okay. So the interesting thing out here is also it clearly says pure love awakened through grace. So pure love arises in the heart of the aspirant in response to the descent of grace from a perfect master. So I'm going to stop here because the next paragraph you're going to read how does the descent of grace come to the aspirant. Jai Baba.
See, love is a gift from God to man. Obedience is a gift from master to the slave. And surrender is the gift from man to God. And surrender is the highest form of love.
Okay, I think the issue is we're almost out of time, and I have a hard stop as well today, so we can't stretch this. We'll pick it up from here, but I know it would have been great if we were able to continue a little longer. But I think it's also important that we spend qualitative time completing this in the right manner, because let's not rush it. So
Yeah.
I will stop at the point where at 114 first paragraph, and we will pick it up from there. But I think this is a very, very important chapter, and I think we had one of the most liveliest conversations and discussions around love. I'm thankful that we all had this lively a discussion, of course, helped by Vidyaji coming on as well. And I think in all this, I noticed very late that Sunil joined us. So welcome back, Sunil. Awesome to see you come back, and nice to. I mean, we didn't hear your voice, you didn't jump in, but nice to see you participate. We will get back in touch with you over course of time, and hope you and your family are doing better.
Thank you. Thanks, Karthik. I'm here. I was listening.
Yeah.
I came in a little
Yeah.
bit late, but yeah, I was determined to come into the call today. So
Very good. Very good. Jai Baba. We're very happy about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, just a bit of brief. I think my entire family had COVID from 20th April to for about 12 days. 2nd, 3rd of May, we all had COVID, and then we are all out of it now, gone back to normal. My daughter had little more, but four of us had. But by the grace of Baba, we experienced Baba a lot during these days. And even when my saturation went down, nothing on the, it was just there on the oximeter, but it was nothing on the body actually. So that was a miraculously different experience of Baba this time. But yeah, so we're all. When you ask Sunil about his family, is Sunil also having a problem?
No, actually, I should have clarified. Sunil's father passed away over the last week,
Oh,
and
oh my
yeah,
God.
he was
So
ailing.
sorry, Sunil.
He was ailing, and they are in fact they moved from Singapore to Pune, and they spent a quality time. Nomita and Sunil with the father living with him. So, and I think he breathed his last sometime in the last week. So
Friday night, and
yeah,
yeah, we had great time with Baba's grace, and I had been begging to Baba to let me have that time, and Baba enabled it. So we spent about 6 weeks with him. Beautiful time.
amazing.
He got liberated on Friday night. By the way, we were at Baba Samadhi last afternoon. Again, after I immersed his ashes in the river, I went to Samadhi. Also, all of us, my Rajesh was also with me, Nomita, Rajesh's wife, 4 of us, we went there, paid our respects and did prayers at Samadhi also. Everything went as seamlessly in today's,
Complicated times.
very, very complicated times. When we did the cremation, at the cremation ground, it was like decorated for him. There was not a single body there all day.
Oh,
Wow.
When we went for immersion, there was nobody there. It was just him at the prayers and the river in front of us. And then from there we went to Mirabad.
No, beautiful.
So, and after he got liberated, he was in pain for last few days, but when he moved on, his body started glowing. He left. We all felt he was looking maybe 30 years younger.
Wow.
It looked, completely peaceful, as if Baba was holding his hands. So we are all contented. He's back to Baba. That's where he wanted to be. So all in Baba's hands. Thank you so much for all your messages.
So
I wanted to show one small letter from Baba. If you still have 2 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah, when he got married. Let me show my desktop. This is the telegram that Baba had sent to my grandfather. Convey my blessings of love to your son, Kamvar Narayan, and his bride on their wedding day. My love to you all. Meher Baba. It's
Jai
1963.
Baba.
So nice to see this.
Wow.
So it's a very special soul, Vidyaji. Some of us are more familiar because we've seen the video, we've had chats with Sunil and family. I actually posted the Dhar story,
On YouTube.
the account by Rajesh on the YouTube channel. I made it part of our playlist, so people can actually see it and understand more and appreciate what a special soul the senior Dhar, Mr. P.N. Dhar was. So Jai Baba. Thanks for sharing
So
this.
Sunil, you shouldn't be feeling bad at all, because he has got direct grace from Baba himself. So Baba would have especially picked up him, and he's merged with Baba. So whatever happens to the soul later, just don't worry. And I think you should be happy that he's just merged with Baba.
Yeah, I think we are all satisfied that he's finally there. So,
Yeah.
of course, we're not completely capable yet to overcome the small grief or separation that, we feel, but we are, deep down our hearts, we're contented. He's back where he belongs. So, Jai Baba.
Namita sent me one message last month saying, "Oh, we are in your town," and I said, "Oh,
yeah.
yeah." And then I realized she is in Pune and I'm in Bangalore. It's too far to meet. So I think, I think from then on you are in India. Okay.
We're still in Pune, yeah. We'll stay for another week, 10 days, and then move on back to Singapore.
Love to you and Namita. Lots and lots of love. And I pray you heal in love.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jai Baba.
We all pray, Ji. Although we are unable to meet, this is a show here. But
I know, yeah.
all our feelings, and I think time is the best healer.
Yeah.
I went through a similar.
Yeah.
Ashok, yes, Ashok's mother passed away.
Mother passed away a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba, everybody. Have a great Sunday and have a great week ahead. And let's get back in touch. As I said, please reread this chapter on love and be ready to continue from where we left off. Let's get the grace of the perfect master through the gift of love and then continue from that point.
Yes, let us soak in the grace for the
Yes. For the week. That's even better. Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's soak in that. Yes.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Love you all. Take
Jai
care.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you for another amazing session. Thank you so much. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Vidyaji, you should
Jai
come
Baba.
regularly. She's gone.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba Soma. Bye.
Jai Baba.
Hope you're feeling
Jai
good.
Baba. Soma ji, Jai Baba.
Yes, I'm feeling much better. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Sanjay, Somaji.
Yeah.
Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba. Sure. Ashok ji, Ravi, Jai Baba. Have a loving week. Jai Baba.